Hello, everybody. Welcome to Let's Talk Football. My name is John Halpin alongside Chris Palma. How we doing today, my brother?
Been better, but it was a good start to the playoffs for sure. A couple of head scratches, couple of clunkers, but you know,
Yeah, we had a very interesting wild card weekend. Basically, we had a slew of blowouts throughout the whole weekend, except for one game. But we'll get briefly into it. But let's start with a quick wild card recap, starting on Saturday with the Chargers and the Texans. Uh, Chargers scored first, but the Texans came back to rally and rally hard. Texans won 32-12 to beat the Chargers. My heart goes out to the Chargers, man. It was a great year, and it was one of those games where it's like the playoffs really kind of put the spotlight on a lot of people. And Justin Herbert threw three interceptions all year, and
was it four?
he all I think it was three in the year, but I think he threw
Oh,
four.
four in the game.
He threw four in the game,
Right.
and so my heart goes out to Herbert. I'm a big Herbert fan, but man, good on the Texans to beat the Chargers.
Call it playoff jitters for the Chargers. That was, shout out to Harbaugh for this is now his second team that he's brought from a negative record to a playoff run, counting Michigan. So hats off to his coaching style and what he brings to the locker room. Good things to come for the Chargers, but I think someone needs to get into the head of Justin Herbert to shake off these jitters because there's going to be a lot of naysayers next year.
Yeah, and excuse me, the Chargers have that division doesn't do them any favors. The Broncos are on the rise too. The Chiefs are the Chiefs, and the Chargers are going to have to answer a lot of questions going forward, but they are in very good hands under Jim Harbaugh. Texans advance to play the Chiefs in the divisional round.
Should be
So,
interesting.
which brings us to our second of three AFC games this wild card weekend with the Steelers and the Ravens. Ravens beat the Steelers 28-14. It was an absolute shellacking from the Ravens. It ran it 50 times and for nearly 300 yards. Absolutely insane. But Chris Palmer, I know we spoke off air about this, but let me get your thoughts on this game.
In a nutshell, it's just frustration. It's, again, I can look past the score if it was at least competitive.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, if it was like, let's say it was 16-14 at the half,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then we come out, we don't score the rest of the half. You guys blow us out for a half of football. That's more of a conversation piece, right? Or it's close until the end, and then a big play happens, and then you guys go up at the end, and this
Like
is the
round
final
two.
score. Like round two,
Mm-hmm.
it's a different type of conversation. It's the tone in which this game happened that makes it the most frustrating. We have been boasted as a Super Bowl contending defense all year. All year. Where was it? We couldn't stop tailback trap once. We couldn't stop read option left or read option right at all. There was a 13 play drive where not a single pass was coming. At a certain point, someone should call timeout, number one. You got to take a minute, right? You got to give yourselves a minute. You don't. You run it down. You let them run it down your throat for 13 plays. It took about 7-8 minutes off the clock. They finished with a touchdown. All of us are gassed. Our team captain, Cam Hayward, gets hurt during the process because he's in year 13 doing 13 play drive.
Mm-hmm.
You have a team that's not even showing that's not even pretending it anymore, that they're just proving that they're better than you in every way, shape, and form. But this is the formula of what happens, what has been happening for years now, where it's we play good enough to confirm that we'll be positive for the year in the regular season.
Mm-hmm.
We limp towards the finish for the playoffs. We have high hopes for what happens, and we don't get out of the first round. And we get blown out of our shoes in the first round.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're outscored 70-something to 14 in the first in the wild card round.
73-14. I saw that as well.
Right. In the first round of the playoffs. It's not fun to watch in the postseason sometimes. You know, you want to stay hopeful for your team, but when you in the first couple of minutes you watch everything that you have worried about all year come to fruition in the first 5 minutes of the game, and nothing has changed, and you just watch it happen for 4 quarters, it's just like beating your head against the wall. It's just, at what point are you going to stop and you're going to change something?
Mm-hmm.
We saw the first play on our offensive drive that clearly no one was awake. It was a little out route to Pat Fryermuth in his hands to the floor. That set the tone for our offense all night.
Mm-hmm.
Confusion all over the place. Can't run fundamental plays. Missing assignments. Just playing with no energy. Like, you don't want to be there. All of you guys should have wanted to be there. And you didn't show it. Now, the question is, has Mike Tomlin lost the locker room? I know that's a big question.
It is a big question, and I don't have the answer for that. But
it's been a whisper for a couple of years now.
Mm-hmm.
Is Mike Tomlin losing the locker room?
Mm-hmm.
Are the things he's saying going in one ear and out of the other when it comes to these players? Your heart wants to say no, because you hear the things he says and it's like, yeah, I can get behind them. But then you sit back and you listen to the things he says and you realize how encrypted they are. And it's like, what he says is entertaining, but what he says isn't easy to decode and get behind.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not showing on the field. And it's clearly not resonating with the players during practice. So something needs to change. I still believe that Mike Tomlin can bring us a championship. But he needs to figure out a way to grasp this locker room fast before we find ourselves at the bottom of the league real quick.
Yeah, no, that was well said too, and that was a very honest recap of not only the status of the Steelers, but obviously this game in general. I think the fact to just kind of piggyback off what you said, right, with has Mike Tomlin lost the locker room? I think the fact that is a question has really kind of allowed dissenting voices from fans to question Mike Tomlin if he's even fit for the job. And I do agree with you that I think that, yes, he should stay with the Steelers and that he can still coach them to a championship, but obviously not with this roster, and maybe not with this 2024 roster. It was a good roster, but it obviously was not up to par to the level of talent that we see in the playoffs, right? And there's a lot of things that you can point at, but I do want to say that, you know, you and I, we talk a lot of, you know, Ravens and Steelers, clearly, right? And you and I have both said that Mike Tomlin is not above criticism, despite, you know, his records and stuff. If he does not win next year, he actually ties Marvin Lewis for
Most consecutive
years
positive
without a
seasons without a playoff win.
yes, yes.
No, I saw that one, and that's not a list you want to be on,
No.
especially when you have the legacy that comes in with how many positive records, positive seasons you have.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they almost cancel each other out. It's like, yeah, you have this many seasons, but it's been this many since you've had a playoff win.
It's been
You know,
2015.
who does that sound like? Who does that sound like?
Sounds like Mike Tomlin, honestly.
It sounds like the Dallas Cowboys.
Oh man, yeah. But even they got a win a couple years ago.
But they got a playoff win a couple years ago, but so did we in 2016.
Yep.
But that was 8 years ago.
Exactly. So
it's what changes. Like, the idea is the standard, right? But you need to explain what the standard is.
because it's not championships. Not in recent time.
In recent time, playoff production is not there. Because that needs to become a part of the agenda and become the standard again. Is, for a while, we were the ones who were defending the AFC division. So we need to find that mindset again, because it is quickly drifting away, and it really won't be long until we're left behind.
Yeah, it's the league moves fast, man. The
It
league
moves fast.
It moves very fast, and I'd hate for the Steelers to again be left behind. But I, much like you, I do trust in Tomlin. I just hope that whatever he just has to really focus on, even though he is a defensive minded coach, right? This offensive ineptitude is what is crippling the Steelers in recent years. It's not. We could point to Matt Canada in the last couple of years, but Matt Canada ain't on the roster this year. He ain't on the payroll.
No, there's a lot more issues now.
And the Steelers, in this 5-game losing streak, did not score more than 17 points in any of those games. And that looks a lot like the Steelers that we saw in 2023, 2022, 2021, etc. So I think that Tomlin himself, he needs to really kind of like look at the mirror and be like, what do I need to do to make the changes necessary? And I'm very interested to see the direction the Steelers choose to go this offseason, right? But I hope that come a year's time, whatever decisions are made, we're not here in the middle of January talking about the Steelers' offensive ineptitude again.
Right. You see, I have a lot of hope. We have a lot, and I mean a lot, of free agents this year. I think we have like 20 or so free agents this year, and I would think a good majority of them will not be in a Steelers uniform next year. You know, maybe a small handful. And then everything else is, we're going to get it in trade fodder, other roaming free agents, and the draft. I like a lot of the picks that Omar Khan decided to do this past offseason defensively. I do hope. I've seen conversations of Hines Ward has been reached out to become our wide receivers coach. I've also seen conversation where Ben Roethlisberger was reached out to become a quarterbacks coach. So if you can bring some of these people into the building, maybe to facilitate what they know of the game and what they know what it means to have the reputation to wear the uniform you're wearing, maybe that'll start to resonate. If those conversations wind up coming to fruition and those two come into the building, maybe that would help. There's a lot more to it, of course. You know, I think I said it last year, I'll say it again. You got to look at the offensive line coach and see why are my guys so confused? Why can't Broderick Jones get it down? Why can't he get it down? He was supposed to be a top prospect coming out of the draft, where he can play both sides of the ball, pulling, non-pulling. His main position's a left guard. Someone got hurt on the right side. He moved to right tackle. He became a walking penalty. Number one, averaging at least a penalty a game. And that's a real stat.
Which is crazy. It's just wild.
And then you start seeing actual film of him with missed assignments, where you're talking about fundamental plays that you're just doing wrong. You're a tackle. Why are you on the right side? Why are you pulling on a run to the right side? You're almost colliding with the tackle who's supposed to be pulling left to right. You get to the right side and you're realizing, oh, fuck, I'm not supposed to be pulling. So instead of going and finding someone to hit and play football, you're standing there and you're just looking around.
And at that point in time, Derrick Henry's already down the field.
No, I'm talking about Broderick Jones.
No, I know. Oh, no, you're right.
I'm talking about Broderick Jones. At that point, your end has crashed and the play is over. And we lost 3 yards.
And Matabike is
he's untouched.
He's on top of Russell Wilson.
Right, untouched. And it's like, okay, thank you for that. Because our tackle is supposed to get to the next level, but he now has to deal with a crashing linebacker and now his crashing linebacker on 2 ends.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing they can do because you just fundamentally just blew it. So, there's a lot.
I feel like you just want to go, so if you want to, you're more than welcome to just go to scream to the Norse gods if you really want.
No, I'm not going to do it. It's just, again, there's a lot of... It's the tone in which we lost that makes it frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, if I can see it, one of the best coaches in the world can see it.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh, absolutely. Hey,
if
it's a nationally televised game.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
If I can see it, if you can see it, Mike Tomlin and the offensive line coach can see it, that there is a visible issue with Broderick Jones and he needs to be worked on.
And John Harbaugh can see it too.
Right. And now the whole world can see it. The whole nation can see it. The whole league can see it, and that needs to be worked on. I don't know if he has a starting spot next year.
I don't know. But I will say that, again, I'm very interested to see where the Steelers choose to go this offseason. Last thing I'll say on this game is Derrick Henry stiff-arming Minka was a very nice highlight.
It was rough. That was rough.
Oh, man. And then Isaiah Likely stiff-arming.
Isaiah Likely's stiff-arm was even more disrespectful because he basketballed his head off the floor.
It was nasty. Oh, man.
You guys played us like you were the uncle playing the 7-year-olds at the birthday party.
Get down on the ground. Get down on the ground. It was a very interesting game, and we could spend a whole episode talking on it, right? But it was just one of many games this weekend where a lot of teams, where like we said before, there were a lot of blowouts this weekend, and the Steelers were just one of 5 teams that had where their season just kind of fell in on themselves. And again, I don't want to stick too much on this because we still have the rest of this recap. I'm looking at the clock. We spent at least a good 12 minutes just talking about the recap in this game. We still got to talk divisional matchups too, mate. So
it's all good.
It's all good, baby. We ain't pressed for time or anything. But I do want to say again, Tomlin with the offense, it's got to be better. It's got to be more, and I do think that they should sign Justin Fields, and he should be the starting quarterback next year. Thank you, Russ, for all that you did this year. And he says he has a lot of ball left in him, and I'm sure
not in Pittsburgh you don't.
Some team will pay him some money to play. I don't think it should be the Steelers, though.
I don't think it should be the Steelers. I've heard word that there is talks of a 3-year deal with Justin Fields in the works. So if that comes to fruition, I would like it a lot. Russell Wilson, thank you. With every quarterback, you got to take the floor with the ceiling.
Mm-hmm.
The ceiling with Russell Wilson is he can shoot the lights out. If he decides to turn it on, he can play really well. He can have upwards of a 300-yard plus game. His floor, he can't play in the fucking cold.
Nope.
And that's been a thing since he's been drafted.
Mm-hmm.
He cannot play in the fucking cold. I don't know that we can do another quarterback that can't play in January in Pittsburgh.
For your sake, I hope not. But hey, it's good for Justin Fields that he was drafted to Chicago, so he's kind of at least a little acclimated to the cold. But Russ, I'm interested to see where Russ is going to be next year. I agree with you. I don't think it's going to be in Pittsburgh. But with that being said, I say let's get you away from this game, mate, because I know you got a lot of frustration. But let's move on. Let's move on to Buffalo, right? Where we had a very interesting game between the Broncos and the Bills. Broncos scored first, but Bills scored 31 unanswered after that. Bills won 31-7. Bills will play the Ravens next round in the divisional round, so that's a very interesting matchup. But Broncos, there is a lot of light at the end of that tunnel, man. They have a very bright future ahead of them.
Yeah, some can say they over succeeded a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Good season. I do want to address Bo Nix.
Mm-hmm.
He came out and said that he's been playing since week 10 with 3 fractures in his spine.
Ooh.
So
get that taken care of, mate.
So think about that. Since week 10, he's been playing the caliber of football he's been playing. And although they didn't put points on the board, he was still playing well.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't putting points on the board because, again, they just aren't ready yet. They're just 2 different levels of team.
Mm-hmm.
Bills are Super Bowl favorites. You guys were wild card hunt until the last game of the season.
Mm-hmm.
You got to take everything with a grain of salt. It's moving forward. Get your fucking back work done. Get it looked at. Get healthy. Come back. There's a lot of light for you guys.
Yeah, get that back fixed because he's going to be carrying this Broncos team for a while. So we want to make sure that back is strong.
One can hope, right?
Oh man, good showing by the Bills. Broncos, we will see you next year. But they got the monkey off their back. They did make a playoff appearance last time since 2015. So they did get the monkey off their back there to at least appear in the playoffs. But it was unfortunate that you just kind of went up against a juggernaut this year.
Right.
But with that being said, let's move on to the NFC side of things. Those were all the AFC games. Let's move to the NFC side, where the Packers played the Eagles in Philly. Eagles won 22-10. Yeah, the score is typically a little lower than the rest of these scores, but this is still considered a blowout. Packers really have a tough time when they're not in their groove, they have a tough time scoring in the first half, and it's too little too late come the second half. And they just kind of dig themselves in the hole, and that's exactly what we saw in Philadelphia.
Yeah, they went in with no Christian Watson, and then they took another really big hit early on with Romeo Doubs going down and not coming back.
Plus a lineman as well.
Right. I also want to have a hot take. Those fucking Guardian caps aren't doing shit.
I agree with you, mate. I agree with you.
They aren't doing anything. Because Romeo Doubs was wearing that fucking Guardian cap, and he was still knocked unconscious.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. And we've seen players get concussed with Guardian caps. It's like...
They ain't doing a fucking thing.
Yeah. Except just making their head look bigger.
It doesn't do anything. It's just putting added pressure on the head. It's not protecting the skull.
Mm-hmm.
It's not doing anything.
Yeah. And it's unfortunate, too, that the players are the ones that pay the price for it.
Right, like you're being schmoozed into thinking that putting more padding around a pad is going to help, when all it's really doing is muffling your sound, and it's just going to make it's not doing shit.
I do agree with you on that. I don't think that Guardian caps are as effective as they would like them to be. And again, no player ever deserves to get injured or concussed, and it's unfortunate that, you know, they are the guinea pigs in this Guardian cap experiment, which I don't think this year, based on the results that we've seen, I couldn't say that it was a success. So I do agree with you on that.
Yeah, total failure. But good win for Philly. Question stands: how do you stop Saquon Barkley?
I don't know, man, but that's a question for their challenger next week. But let's move on to the Commanders and the Bucks. And this was actually the one game that was not a blowout, and it was a really good game.
And it was the game that both you and I were like, watch out for this game.
Circle this game. This was the game of the week. Clearly.
It stole the week.
Commanders beat the Bucks 23-20 with a last-second field goal that doinked in to the upright. I saw someone comment too, where it's like, if Dan Snyder was still the owner, that would have doinked outward.
It would have missed, right?
Yeah.
Well, it was the ghost of Dan Snyder made the one doink miss earlier on in the game too. So it was like they had to redeem themselves. The ghost of Dan Snyder made a doink out, so they were like, "We're gonna doink it in this time." Good on Washington. That's 5 straight games you've won on the last play at the line of scrimmage.
Absolutely wild too. Commanders have been playing playoff football for the last 5 weeks, it seems.
Talk about a 60-minute team, man.
And this was the first time since before Dan Snyder owned the team that the Washington team has made it to the divisional round. So
yeah, Adrian Peterson was on the Red. They were still the Redskins, and Adrian Peterson was their running back.
Yeah, they weren't even in the divisional round at that point. They just made it to the wild card, which is crazy. But hey, good on the Commanders. Bucks, a stellar season. I'm looking at the Bucks, and I think that they have a very big future ahead of them with Baker, and I think that just because they lost this game, I think that they are going to come back hard next year. And I'm really excited for that.
The question is, what Tampa team would they have been with Chris Godwin on the field?
I don't think
Chris Godwin and Mike Evans.
I think they could have been better than the third seed, mate. And that's the thing.
That's the scary part. Eyes out for Tampa.
Keep an eye out on Tampa and Baker, man. But let's. So the Commanders advance to play the Lions this upcoming divisional round.
That's a good game.
So that's going to be a good matchup, and we're going to dive into that. But we have our final game of the wild card weekend, and that is the Vikings and the Rams in Arizona, actually, because of all the wildfires in LA. We would like to wish everyone in the LA County to, we hope you're staying safe and everything. But getting back to football, Rams beat the Vikings 27-9. Sam Darnold was sacked 9 times against the Rams. And it looks like the Vikings just wanted to play Chicago Bears style football and just keep allowing sacks to their quarterback. But I'll be honest, though, not all sacks are created equal, and not all sacks were the offensive line's fault. I think Sam Darnold, these last 2 games have really hurt his contract deal, and he's really hurt himself out of a contract. And that's why when we were speaking a couple weeks ago about the Vikings, he will still get a deal, but I was saying I don't think it's going to be with Minnesota. It's probably going to be with another team. And based on these last 2 games, I don't see him staying with Minnesota after these 2 games.
Yeah, I was an advocate for Sam Darnold to stay in Minnesota, but you play your two worst games against two top contending teams. Like, you could say that LA is really like a scratch and claw top contender this year. Like they got healthy at the right time, and I wouldn't want to play them right now. But Sam Darnold was playing scared. Like,
Oh yeah.
first playoff game, and it showed.
Mm-hmm.
It showed. Playoff jitters were on a different level. There was no shaking that, especially after, let's say, the second or third sack. You know what I'm saying? Like, once was thrown to the floor in a couple of different ways, there's no coming back from that. Especially in your first playoff game, and now you're playing the Rams, and your coach is simply being outcoached.
Mm-hmm.
In every way, shape, or form, they were just outmatched. And that's nothing. Again, good on the Rams. The Vikings, they just didn't belong on the field, unfortunately.
Yeah, and for me personally, it's like you know me, mate. I have a soft spot for the Vikings as a franchise, right? They're a team that's like, man, they've been through the fucking ringer as a franchise, and I have a certain soft spot for them. And I like Sam Darnold. I think he's fine, right? And I'm glad that he had his best year under the Vikings, right? But I never really bought into them. I kind of kept them at arm's length. I'm like, the bubble's gonna pop at some point. The bubble's gonna
The
pop,
shoe needs to drop.
and it dropped. It didn't even drop this game. It dropped week 18 against the Lions. That's when the bubble popped. And and it's crazy too that the Vikings only lost two teams this year, the Lions and the Rams.
Right.
Which is absolutely fucking wild, and I don't think we'll ever see like a stat like that again. But they lost to two playoff caliber teams that are Super Bowl hungry, and I think the Vikings are now at a point where it's like they have a choice on their identity going forward. And much like I said with the Steelers, where I'm interested to see where they choose to go forward this year, I'm very interested to see what the Vikings choose to be, or who the Vikings choose to be come next year.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting what they do with that quarterback spot. Again, I agree with you that Sam Darnold may have worked his way out of a contract with the clunkers that came out of these last two games. But at the same time, you got to remember, J.J. McCarthy's had 2 surgeries and is not recovering well.
I know.
So, do they try and trade up to get a quarterback in the draft? Like, do they go into free agency? Like, what happens now? It's you have a rookie quarterback who's not healing right, and you have a regular season ready quarterback who had his first taste of the playoffs and played afraid all for 2 games straight. Your first taste of the playoffs was against the Lions a week before the playoffs started. And you played your worst football of the season. And then tough. You followed up with your worst football of the season in the wild card round.
Yeah.
It's a hard conversation to have with both of them. It's like, what do we do? What do we do? Because we could send you both somewhere for a high draft pick.
Maybe, but there's a lot of options Minnesota can explore, and now they'll have plenty of time to think those decisions over. So we'll
in Cancun where it's nice and warm.
Exactly. Last thing I'll say before we start talking these games is Sam Darnold. I hear there's a team looking to get a quarterback. Maybe you should go to the New York Jets.
I feel like no. He would go to the Raiders.
Oh my god. No, I feel like the Jets would be stupid enough to get
to re-sign him.
Yeah, they would.
Let's forget about the past.
Oh, baby,
we've forgiven you.
I forgive you, baby. Come back.
If I was him, I'd only go back if Rex Ryan walked in the room. If Rex Ryan walked in the room, I'd go back.
Well, hey,
I could use a snack after film.
this is going to be a very interesting offseason going forward, I can tell you that.
Keep an eye out.
Keep an eye out, mate. But before we even get to the offseason, we still have to finish these playoffs, mate. We still have
Hell yeah, brother.
We still have so much playoffs to talk about. So
4 games, 8 teams.
That's it. 8 teams left. And we got 4 games this upcoming weekend, and we got 4 spectacular games to look forward to this weekend. So, CP, you ready to talk some games?
Hell yeah, brother.
Let's do it. So let's start with the first game on Saturday, and that is the Texans and the Chiefs. I'll pass the torch off to you, CP, but I do want to say real quick, too, that in the AFC side, this is the same final 4 teams in the AFC that it was last year.
Just switched up.
Just switched up a little bit. So it's crazy, too, that, again, all division winners as well. But these are the top 4 teams in the AFC. So Chris Palma, Texans, Chiefs. Start us off, my friend.
This game is interesting. I've been thinking about this game all week. Like, as soon as it was slated, I was like, You got to think about what both teams are capable of in the regular season, right?
Mm-hmm.
You look at their absences, you look at the flaws, you look at everything. Hot take. Kansas City is the worst 15-win team I've ever fucking seen in my life.
I can agree with you on that.
So let's put that one on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
Houston decided to play their best defense in the wild card round all year. The absence of Tank Dell is still like a cut to the leg. You can still see it on and off when it comes to decision-making, progression reading, what have you. But CJ Stroud is working through the adversity of not having him on the field. If on paper you want to look at this game and you're like, oh yeah, Kansas City is going to roll Houston. I don't know about that. Got to remember, this is not the Kansas City Chiefs that we have the one-punch knockout power in the back pocket, where it's we can put up numbers in bunches, and by the third quarter, we're putting in the substitutes because the game is just so far ahead. This is not that Chiefs offense. But the one thing that's remained is that Chiefs defense still gives up a lot of yards. They don't give up a lot of points to the right teams, but they give up a lot of yards. And Houston is that type of team where they know how to score. You let them into the red zone, odds are they're probably going to put points on the board. At the very least, they're going to put up 3. So you got to look past the players, and you got to look on the sidelines. You have Andy Reid versus DeMeco Ryan. You want to talk about the toughest matchup of your career? Congratulations, DeMeco Ryan. You now have to play Andy Reid in the postseason at a game of chess.
Yep.
At home. Say what you want. That is probably the tallest order of this playoffs right now.
It is. It really is.
Like, when you think about it in a holistic sense, he's a second-year coach. Granted, he's done incredible things for that culture in Houston.
He's a second-year coach going against a dynasty.
Going against a Mount Rushmore coach. Like, no bullshit, he is on Mount Rushmore of all-time greatest coaches.
Oh, absolutely.
Who is on pace for a three-peat. And you're standing in his way.
On pace for a three-peat and only a couple wins, 2 to 3 seasons from beating Don Shula's record of most wins by a head coach. So he's
God.
only a couple wins away from it. Like he's
Right, like,
probably
he's
two
right
seasons
there.
worth. Yeah, like 2 seasons worth with the Chiefs, right? But continue, my friend. Continue.
So, and keep in mind, you are now in his way. You have a Patrick Mahomes who has really played his worst football all year, who, by all rights, could be saving it for the postseason. We could be seeing the transition of the Chiefs, where we saw the same transition with the Patriots,
Mhm.
where it's we no longer have a need to put up 40
Mm-hmm.
because we know how to play you specifically. We know how to exploit your weaknesses for 60 minutes and keep you guys at bay while we score just enough to win the game. And that's the meticulous death by 1,000 cuts that all of the all-time great teams have learned how to do.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the scary transition that I think we saw the Chiefs do this regular season.
Well, I mean, they made their transition a couple years ago, actually. We've talked about it before. Like it was after that Tampa Super Bowl, and after they got rid of Tyreek Hill, they transitioned into that running team by death by 1,000 cuts. And remember, in the Super Bowl against the Eagles, it was mostly like Isaiah Pacheco running the ball. Mahomes in that Super Bowl only had 184 passing yards.
Right.
He didn't need much, and so the Chiefs have become that team a couple years ago. Now we know that we know that this year they have not even scored 30 points in a game.
I think they did it once.
Nope, they did not.
Not once.
Not once. They got 29 at some.
Right.
Yep.
Right. Maybe you're right.
Yeah, against the Steelers, they got 29. Right. They have not scored 30 at any point in time. I want to say that obviously the playoffs are different than the regular season, right? But we saw this matchup a couple weeks ago. The Texans came to play the Chiefs week 16. And looking back on that game, the game got away from the Texans very early. Some costly turnovers, right? But the Chiefs, the big difference in that game, what made them the better team that day, and the Chiefs won, I believe, it was 27-19, if I'm not mistaken. The big difference in that game, to me, was the Chiefs running the ball.
Mm-hmm.
And they were just able to keep C.J. Stroud and the Texans on the sideline, keep taking time off the clock, controlling the game. That's what they've been doing this whole time. Is the Chiefs have they have mastered how to play control football.
Right, the time of possession game,
and
they murder it.
They murder it, and by running the ball, and that's a big weakness that the Texans have this year. Is yes, they have a very good pass defense, but their running defense is very lackluster, and I expect to see a very heavy dose of Chiefs playoff running football that we've seen the past couple years. Of course, Mahomes is going to do his thing. Like, he's going to find Kelsey, right? And again, we've looked at the stats before. Mahomes is targeting Kelsey by far more than any other receiver that he has.
Right, so it's probably going to Kelsey.
Kelsey's his first read. You better have Kelsey covered on that first read.
And you better get there before he reads his third read, because that ball's in the air.
Yep. And if Mahomes he's deadly if he's holding the ball longer than 3 seconds. So it's like, if you're not getting to him, he is going to make your day miserable.
Right. You can't let him loose. You cannot let him get loose.
Mm-hmm.
But the good thing is that I don't want to say it's a good thing. The advantage is that he's coming in not at 100% because of that high ankle sprain again. And now, got to keep in mind, as good as he is, that is becoming a reoccurring thing. Late in the year, that ankle decides to aggravate itself.
It's always his ankles too, which is
It's
crazy.
the right ankle
Yeah,
every year.
It's crazy.
Since the first time he rolled that ankle, it is nonstop aggravated every winter.
I remember too, actually, when he rolled that a couple years ago. That was like against the Colts, and he had to miss a game. He missed the following week against the Packers, where it was supposed to be Mahomes versus Rodgers, and he did not play that game. And since then, he's just had that ankle. But and then he obviously re-aggravated it in the Super Bowl against Philly, and then
he aggravates it throughout the year, and then that's just what it's been. That ankle is becoming a hindrance to Patrick Mahomes.
But is it though? Because he just seems to keep winning.
I understand. They keep finding ways to win, and it's unbelievable. Yeah. It's really a spectacle to watch when it comes to the Chiefs and how they can win games. Call it what you want with the officiating. It's been abysmal across the board.
Mm-hmm.
So once you sift through the bullshit that is the officiating, you got to look at the raw play, and you got to look at the sheer masterclass of coaching.
Mm-hmm.
It's a masterclass when it comes to Andy Reid. He is doing things with his team, and he is just exposing other teams.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it's just the fundamentals. We're going to do things so much better than you that there is nothing you can do in every shape and way.
And it's, again, Andy Reid's been coaching for well over almost 30 years, mate. Like that, which is fucking wild. Which is absolutely fucking. He's been wild. He's been a head coach longer than some of his players have been alive, which is absolutely wild to think about. But But
some of his players don't even know about his Eagles run.
Which is fucking wild too.
You know what I'm saying?
And it's funny too, because DeMeco Ryan was actually a linebacker for the Eagles when Andy Reid was a head coach.
That's what I'm saying. There's some people on the roster that I'm sure have no idea.
It's just absolutely fucking
wild.
That
have no idea that DeMeco Ryan was on that Eagles team.
Absolutely crazy, man. And again, one thing that we describe the Lions and Dan Campbell and the Commanders, even this episode, as a 60-minute team. And I don't think that enough credit has been given to the Chiefs that they are a 60-minute team. Where they will on both sides of the ball play you hard for the whole game. Yeah. And that's why we've seen so many games of the Chiefs come down to the wire. Because they're still in it. Because they keep themselves in it. They never play themselves out of a game. And the Texans are very fortunate that they kind of woke up in the wild card round, right? Because before the wild card round, they looked very anemic. They looked pretty bad.
Very vulnerable on the defensive side.
On the defensive side, but offensively, they look pretty fucking bad.
Well, yeah, they had to get over that injury from Tank Dell, and they had to get over it quick, and it lingered for a couple of weeks. He went down week 13. That it lingered for almost a month.
Yeah, and Tank Dell was there for that Chiefs game in week 16. Shortly after that, then he got injured. But I mean, I will say with the Texans' offense, they do have a good amount of depth there too. You have Nico Collins, who's a great number one wide receiver. You have Dalton Schultz, who really found a home there, and Joe Mixon, who is still a pretty solid running back, man.
Right. It's just they got deflated. It's just what happens.
They got deflated, and I think that let's go back to that Chiefs-Texans game, week 16. I think the one thing that really changed the outcome of the game is early turnovers changes your game plan going forward, right? Because when the Chiefs go up 2 possessions, right, you kind of don't want to run the ball anymore. You kind of want to keep passing it just to kind of keep up in the air. But when you don't get completions, the clock stops.
Correct.
And when the Chiefs are running the ball, even if they don't get a first down,
the clock runs.
The clock keeps running.
Because it's in between the numbers.
And so that's why I think the Texans got scared very early in that game. And I think that when they're coming to a Chiefs team that is healthier than they were in Week 16. They are more focused now because they want this three-peat. Like they want this three-peat bad. Like they want to be that first team to win 3 Super Bowls in a row. No team has ever done that. Mahomes said it as the confetti was dropping last year. As the confetti was falling out, he's like, I want another one.
I remember that.
And he wants it, man. And much like
if
you
they
said,
cement the three-peat,
mm-hmm.
that has to cement Andy Reid as the best coach of all time.
You could make the argument. And you could also elevate Mahomes into the argument of like getting to Brady's level.
Top 5 all time.
He's already top 5 all time.
I know. I know. It's fucking hard. It's hard to not argue that.
At that point in time, you put him at just 2, which is crazy.
Maybe 3 if you want to throw Joe Montana in there.
I mean,
maybe 3. And it's a hard argument for 3.
Yeah, that's the thing though. Is like if they win it rewrites history.
You see, the problem is this is the Chiefs' villain arc. You know, it really is. We talk about Dan Campbell and we talk about Washington and their run, and we talk about these teams that are doing the same thing that the Chiefs are doing. The problem is the Chiefs have been doing it for too long. You know what I'm saying? And that's just, it's the same thing that happened with the Patriots. At one point, it transitioned. It was, enough. We get it. You guys are great. People want to see fresh. They want to see new, but if you can't beat them, it's not going to get better.
That's the thing, too. It's like,
and the better they get, the more refined they get.
Mm-hmm.
So it becomes more of a meticulous game where it's not this knuckle-dragging, brutish sport anymore. It's now a chess match. And it's at the point where you can't leave any more than about if there's a minute on the clock, there's too much time.
Yep.
And when was the last time we said that effectively? When Tom Brady was on the Patriots.
Too much time. Yep.
That is a minute in the game is too much time for Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs.
Patrick Mahomes proved a couple years ago 13 seconds is too much time.
Correct. So there is too much time on the clock until you have to be a 60-minute team every time you play the Chiefs.
Mm-hmm.
Because if not, they will make you a 60-minute team.
Yep.
And they won't even have to score 30. They're just going to show you this is what you need to do to get on this level.
Mm-hmm.
And it will be a humbling experience for whoever isn't ready.
Which is, man. So, Chris Palma, I turn to you, my friend. And I ask you the question of questions. Who you got for this game?
Again, I've been thinking about this all week, and if the Texans that came out against the Chargers come out,
mm-hmm.
they can win this game. This is absolutely a winnable game. It comes down to coaching.
Mm-hmm.
First and foremost.
Absolutely.
Nothing against D'Amico Ryan. You simply are not in the same conversation as Andy Reid in the playoffs, going on pace for a three-peat, and you're in his way. You're going to have to give me the Chiefs. It's a coaching masterclass versus someone who's still getting his feet wet. You know, Andy Reid has film tapes older than your coaching career.
Mm-hmm. Which is fucking wild. It's crazy to think about. No, but you're right though, and I agree with everything that you said. Right. It starts with coaching. It starts with preparation. Right. You got to prepare. Chiefs want Andy Reid wants this three-peat. Mahomes wants this three-peat. They want it. If the Texans team that showed up against the Chargers comes against the Chiefs, they could win it. but the Chiefs aren't the Chargers. They're two very different teams.
Correct.
And I like the Texans. I like D'Amico Ryan. I like C.J. Stroud, man. And I can't wait to see what the future has in store for them. This year, they kind of regressed a little bit, they had a little bit of a sophomore slump, but that's okay. That's okay. I still think the Texans are still going to be contenders in the AFC for a couple years to come. So with this quarterback and coaching duo, but this season ends in Arrowhead for them, and I'm taking the Chiefs to beat them.
Yeah.
Which sets the stage for
the AFC Championship,
which is going to be absolutely fucking insane when we get to our other AFC divisional game. Well, it's funny to talk about with that, but let's move. I want to move to the NFC side for the second game on Saturday. That Commanders-Lions game.
This game's gonna be nuts.
This game is gonna. But Chris Palmer, let me ask you, why is this game gonna be nuts?
Because of the cultures of these two teams. They're the exact fucking same. They are the exact same. They have been ran through the shit for so long that they have both decided to say enough at just about the same fucking time and have emerged as these two hyper-aggressive fucking blue-collar fist-fighting fucking teams that just they never hear a bell, they never hear quit, they never stop. So this game is going to be one of the most gas-pedaled fist fights that we've seen probably all year. And it's very interesting to see that come from Jaden Daniels. Because to watch a rookie quarterback get settled in the playoffs the way he did against that Tampa defense, there is something special in Jaden Daniels. And that is saying it lightly. If people don't see how poised he was against that Tampa team is nasty. And you went 10 rounds and you brought it to the last play. If people don't recognize greatness in Jaden Daniels, there's a real problem there. He showed real greatness and a lot of grit walking away from that game like that. Leading into this game, like we said about the last game, Chiefs-Texans, it's about coaching. Dan Campbell, Dan Quinn. These are probably two of, we could call it last of a dying breed when it comes to just smash mouth. Everybody is going to get reps if needed. Next man up, we will get through this, and we are going to fight. Not a single punt is going to be made this game. Every 4th and short, everyone's going for it.
Fuck, man, it's going to be 4th and 10. They're going to say, go for it.
No. 4th and 10. If there's a 4th and 10, there may be a punt, but I don't see a 4th and 10 coming.
Maybe a punt.
At 4th and 10, I could almost... Listen, you got to half expect a fake punt. It's just going to happen with how hyper-aggressive these fucking teams are. Are you kidding me?
I was going to say, bro.
So it's like...
punted.
Right. It's not a beneath either of these teams to do some shit like that. And it works. You know what I'm saying? The energy of these two teams, and it resonates. Like, these are two teams that these rosters have totally gotten behind those types of cultures. Just much like last week, Washington being in this game makes this the most exciting game of the week. I feel.
Well, I mean,
out of these two games, this one's a lot more exciting than Houston, Kansas City.
Out of these two, yes. Out of the four, I don't know about out of the four.
I
But
know,
I know. Yeah.
I know.
But out of these two, I'm very excited for this one especially. Yeah, chug that water. Unless it's vodka. Is it vodka?
No, it's water.
Oh. Man, this and you're right too. Where again, this is going to be smash mouth football all the way around. I think now Rookie of the Year is an award that is based on the regular season. But let's be honest though, the people who make these votes, they also watch the playoffs.
You got to watch the playoffs a little bit.
They
right?
watch the playoffs. And I think that Jaden Daniels has proven that he is Rookie of the Year. And to me, there was one play in particular that I think just encapsulated who he is as a football player. And that was when the game was tied and they had to go down the field to put up to get their kicker in range for a field goal. And they call the play. Jaden Daniels is in shotgun. And Tampa sends the house. And it looks like he's about to get sacked. Breaks out of the sack, rolls to his right. He's looking for the pass. Says, fuck it, I'll take it myself. Runs for 5 yards, gets the first down. I see that with Lamar on a weekly basis. Jaden's got some Lamar in him.
There's greatness there. You know, call it who you want. Call it Lamar. Call it Patrick Mahomes. Call it Stafford. Call it whoever you... It's greatness. There's greatness there.
Greatness. You could also call it resiliency. And I think that's what makes the great players great, is being resilient.
And
through adversity, right?
Correct.
And man, that Tampa team again, I'm liking Tampa next year. I'm really liking them next year.
They're nasty. Keep an eye out for them.
But they're not in it this year because of the Commanders. Because of this team.
And that says a lot.
This team of that no one really believed in, and I know I had low expectations for the Commanders this year, but they exceeded that. They got Terry McLaurin, an actual competent quarterback to be throwing in the ball, and he's looking like a Hall of Famer. With Jaden Daniels, a rookie there, and Austin Eckler from the Chargers, still just absolutely pounding defensive backs, bro. It's absolutely wild. And Bobby Wagner still commanding that defense in the backfield.
Can we just pause for just what? Can we talk about the one highlight from last week that I don't think anybody expected to see? Did you see it? Did you see the quarterback draw where fucking Baker Mayfield put Bobby Wagner on his fucking back, bro? I don't think anyone had that on their bingo cards for this year,
bro. That's why Baker should be he should get some MVP votes just for that play alone, man. He's
the people's MVP. He's the people's MVP.
Which is fucking crazy. It's Baker Mayfield. 5 years ago, we would be like, "What are you talking about?" But
5 years ago, he was getting laughed at Cleveland.
Exactly. And I gotta say, this team of rejects, if you want to call it such.
It's like the island of misfit toys.
Exactly. They've found a home, right? They've found an identity. They found a leader. They found a coach. They have made the right decisions since departing from Dan Snyder. Thank fucking God.
Oh, you're talking about the Commanders.
The Commanders, yes.
Because that runs in the same vein for both teams.
That was my point, yeah. Because you could say the same thing about both teams. Both of these teams are like the island of misfit toys.
Yeah.
And again, the Commanders had such an impressive season, and I want to flip it to the Lions real quick, because the Lions, again, have had their probably best season of their entire franchise this year.
They have. Franchise record high.
It's been an absolute, and honestly, for the Lions, it's only fitting that it's under Dan Campbell because this man was playing for them when they were 0-16. So he's seen the worst of the Lions, and he's coached them to be the best of the Lions.
Shout out Dan Campbell for calling it. He called it how long it was going to take. He said, we need 3 years.
Boom. This is the 4th year. And
but
here they are.
last year they went into the NFC Championship.
Yep.
So it was 3 years. This year, they're a total favorite.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
The Lions are America's team this year.
I feel like the breath of fresh air would finish with a Detroit Super Bowl. You know what I'm saying?
I think that if you have a heart, right, you can't not root for the Lions, right?
Right, you can't not feel good. Like we said it a couple years back, we said it this year, we said it last year, I believe, as well. There are teams in this league that when they do good, it's good for the sport.
Mm-hmm.
And Detroit is one of those teams that when they're doing good, the sport does good.
Yep.
It was just almost 30 years since the team was good.
Man, and
you know, there was a short stint when they were good with Megatron and Matt Stafford, but they weren't good enough.
Yeah.
For long enough.
Yep. And Megatron never got a playoff win either, too, which
that's
is
what I'm saying. You know, and what's crazy, even with the extended season, no one's touched his record.
I know, which is crazy.
No one's touched his single season yards record. Which is nuts.
Which is so crazy, too. And you look at this game, right? There's so many great young players on both sides of these teams. I'd like to call a lot of these guys rising stars on these teams. Obviously, the biggest one is Jaden Daniels, right? He's the biggest rising star there is. You could, Jahmyr Gibbs. He is a rising star.
Shout out rising star on Detroit, Alex Anzalone.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
This man came in. You know how Detroit, they always do the locker room video where they hand out the game ball?
Oh, yeah.
He came in 6 weeks after breaking his arm. So that arm is still broken. And he had 9 tackles. You want to talk about a rising star? His arm is still broken going into this game. And he's going to be playing.
But he's gonna run through a brick wall for that coach, man.
It's the mindset. It's the culture where this needs to be done. I'll worry about it later.
It's the having no fear. That's the thing too. It's like
do not fear this.
Dan Campbell has coached his team to not have fear. I do want to say one last rising star, Penei Sewell.
Love it. I love him.
He is
since he's drafted. I loved him.
Not many people know his name, and that's fine. But man, he is protecting Jared Goff's ass so hard, and
people will remember him in short time.
Oh yeah, and we talked about it too when he was drafted. We thought like it's not the sexiest pick, but it's the right pick, and it has proven that this was the right pick for the Lions at that point in time. They could have had Jamar Chase, right? You could have had Jamar Chase, but I think this was better.
You got an all-time lineman.
Yeah,
in that pick.
Who is going to be an anchor for this team.
For years.
For years. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, David Montgomery's coming back? Monty? He coming back?
He definitely teased at it. So
Monty?
If David Montgomery comes back and that two-headed beast of a run game decides to come back, there is a very high possibility they blow this playoff scheme wide open. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
We've seen a couple of blowouts in wild card. That run game comes back at full strength. That could really be dangerous.
Well, if there was ever a team that needed a bye week, it was the Lions. And they earned that bye week. And now
just about everybody is healthy.
You're going to be as fresh as you are, and they have the same thing as the Chiefs. You win 3 games. You play your best 3 games. You're champions. You're immortal. And they just have, but it has to start with this one, right? And before I lose this train of thought too, I think the big X factor in the game is Jared Goff, because he's been playing.
What Jared Goff comes out?
Well, not what Jared Goff comes out, but how aggressive he comes out, right? He's had one of his best years. Quietly, had been having one of his best years. And I don't think he gets enough credit for Detroit's success as he should. Because we talk about Mahomes, we talk about Jaden Daniels, we talk about CJ Stroud, we talk about all these great quarterbacks, right? But he's got to be up there too. Because he has absolutely shown that, as we've talked about with Baker in Tampa, that he belongs there. He's the leader of that team. Jared Goff belongs there. And
Absolutely.
He is the leader of that team. And I don't think he gets enough credit for the success of the Lions as well. A lot of it goes to Dan Campbell, as we have. But, man, let's not forget Jared Goff, because he is phenomenal.
He started it with Dan Campbell. He's there.
Yep. And Dan Campbell said it to him last year. He's like, you're good enough for Detroit. You belong here. And, man, he's taken that to heart. Man, he is playing like he's running through a brick wall for this man.
Well, that's all you need, is a team to believe in you.
Mm-hmm. And they do.
You know what I mean? And then it changes the world.
Mm-hmm.
All you need is a coach to say, hey, I got your back. Just trust me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all any football player wants. When the words are said and it ends in trust me and I got you, that's all you need to hear when it comes to a coach. It's, I know what you guys are capable of. I have a program. Just trust me and we will get there. You get a bunch of guys that buy into that, and magic will happen.
And, man, it's been a magical season for Detroit. I think anything short of a Super Bowl would be disheartening. But, man, let's not forget this unbelievable year. It's been such a great year for the city of Detroit and to be a Lions fan, man. And this is America's team right now. If the Chiefs are the NFL's supervillains, I think that the Lions are trying to be that superhero that America wants. Bless you, Chris Palmer. Bless you.
Thank you.
Woo. But Chris Palmer, I ask you right here, right now, who you got? He's thinking it. He's mulling it over, man. He's it's tough. I think that this is going to be a great game regardless. But, man, whew.
I want you to know that this would have been an easier pick had Tampa gone in.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the truth of it.
Well, Tampa would have been playing the Eagles.
Oh, they would have been playing the Eagles.
Mm-hmm. Which means the Rams would have come to Detroit, which would have
made it easier to pick. And it would have, in my opinion. You're gonna give me Detroit. Gotta ride with Detroit.
You gotta ride with them, baby.
Been riding with them all year, save for one game, and they put that out the window.
Yeah, man. This game is going to be great. Both these teams match up so well. Their coaching style, their personnel, their philosophy, their just their leadership. It's such a great matchup. But, man, Detroit, you gotta finish it, man. You gotta finish the season, and I'm taking the Lions.
Hell yeah!
I have to take the Lions, man, because if there's anyone on the NFC side, man, I really want them to at least appear in the Super Bowl, man.
Just make an appearance.
That would be great. That would be so great. If they win it all, that's even better. But, man, I'm taking the Lions to beat the Commanders. Ooh,
Hell yeah.
shit, Chris Palmer. What a fucking slate of games we got this fucking week, man.
I love this time of year, dude. For
It's
real, I love this time of year.
history is made in the divisional round, mate, and that was just Saturday. We still have Sunday's slate of games to talk about. And let's start with the first game on Sunday, and that is the Rams and the Eagles. I was going to say, CP, you mind if I start this one?
Go ahead. You can start the next two.
Oh, man. Well, I've definitely taken the reins on the last one, but, man, let me start with the Rams. This team is poised to win a Super Bowl, and I don't think a lot of people know that. But this team has risen from the ashes this year, which in a way that is somewhat people kind of overlook. CP, I remember we talked in like week 4 or 5 where this is like they're
It's
1
like,
and
what
4.
happened?
They're 1-4. And it's like they have to win this game against the Raiders to save their season. And now it's in the middle of January and they look primed to win a Super Bowl. And their offense is led by Matt Stafford, fueled by such great young offensive talent in Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp, Kyron Williams. Kyron Williams is a running back that honestly I put him in like the same tier of young running backs as Jahmyr Gibbs. And I know that's saying a lot because we know how
loaded.
We know how great Jahmyr Gibbs is. Kyron Williams is just as good. And
He's going to have to show me that.
This whole season,
I respect it. He's going to have to show me that. This weekend, he's going to have to show me that.
I hope he does, man, because he is an absolute stud of a running back. And then you flip it to the other side. They have such an amazing young defense that, yes, this is the first year without Aaron Donald. But, man, they only missed the beat of September. October, November, December.
They've turned it on.
They have turned it on. Jared Verse, the 21st overall pick in the draft this year, quietly could be Defensive Rookie of the Year. Quietly could be that. He has been absolutely phenomenal, and he was all over Sam Darnold last week. He is just an absolute stud on defense that I think that, again, the Rams are a team where it's like they're not a flashy team. They're not like they don't have a captivating story. They won their Super Bowl a couple of years ago, maybe. Like everyone kind of was like, it's the Rams, right? But man, this team looks absolutely incredible. And if I'm the Eagles, this is the matchup I did not want. If the Bucs went to Philly, I agree with you. I would have been more on Philly. But this, I'm like, they match up so well against Philly. Because you asked before, how do you stop Saquon Barkley? Well, the Rams had that front seven to do so. Whether they're able to or not, that's a different story. But they have the personnel to do it. And a lot of young name players that a lot of people don't know about, which is fine. But man, they play hard. Sean McVay, he is still like maybe this wild card weekend was a good reminder to the NFL that the Rams are still here to compete for Super Bowls under Sean McVay with Matt Stafford. I think that again, you start 1-4, mate, and then you go 9-3 to finish the year. That is impressive. And like I said last week, I was more impressed by the Rams this season than I was the Vikings, despite the Vikings having a phenomenal year.
It was the tone in which it happened.
Yes,
it's always the tone. You got to look at it in a full-blown sense.
Yes.
So when you look at the season of the Rams, right,
mm-hmm.
It almost emulates the career of Matt Stafford.
Mm-hmm.
Just turmoil after injury, after turmoil, after redemption. Now we're dangerous. This season emulates the career of the quarterback at hand. At this point in time, I would not want to play the Rams. But the problem is Saquon Barkley is one of 2 running backs in this league where you can confidently say every time they touch the ball, they are 1 move away from breaking it big.
Mm-hmm.
And by big, I mean 30 yards to a touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
And there is no preparation in the world that can have you ready for that every single time.
Mm-hmm.
These guys are young on the defensive side of LA. I like it. They're a good unit. Pursuing and tackling is their main game. When you have greatness on a career year, all the preparation in the world, it doesn't matter. You have 2 teams right now that are in full-blown Super Bowl mode. Again, I agree with you that right now I would not want to play the Rams. Sean McVay is showing why he is really growing a resume for a masterclass of a coach. And that is saying a lot. There's not many masterclass coaches in this league anymore. There's really only a select few.
Mm-hmm.
And Sean McVay is building his resume and putting himself in that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, that front 7 is going to have to go up against the best offensive line in football.
Which is tough.
So
that's a tall order.
You and I, you know how it goes that we like to look closer into games. If there was ever a time to watch a line of scrimmage battle, it would be this weekend watching this game with this offensive line versus that front 7. And just watch an absolute gladiator pit war happen for 3 hours.
Yeah, this game is going to be decided in the trenches, and I know we say
Absolutely.
that. I know we say that for a couple games here and there, but we mean that because that's how this game is going to turn out. And I want to flip it to the Eagles real quick. The Eagles want that redemption arc. They want that. They really want to right the ship of 2 years ago, and where it's like they were so close.
Right there.
They were right there to win that championship. And, man, they could have. They really could have. But they didn't. Mahomes and the Chiefs, it's hard. It's hard to go against a dynasty, right? They're just the best. They're one of the best teams for a reason, right? It's hard to go against that. But, man, they were so close. And then last year completely fell off the rails towards the back end of the season. They were not ready for it last year. And then they walked into Tampa in the wild card round. They punched their ticket to Cancun right after that. But this year, they want it all. And they have made the right offseason moves to now put themselves in position to win it all. I thought Saquon was going to be more whipped cream than actual, meal. No, he's been the whole focal point of that Philly offense. They're like, no. Fuck the tush push.
They changed the whole dynamic of that playbook for him.
Fuck the tush push. We're giving it to Saquon.
Right, we're running the fucking ball.
we're running the ball with Saquon. We don't give a fuck. And
fuck the tush push.
And I mean, they still do the tush push, right? But obviously, it's not. That play
not
was
the prominent run play that they do anymore.
Exactly. It's Saquon. It's all Saquon. It's giving Saquon those east and west lanes to open up in the B gap, right? Get that B and C gap, right? Just kind of get to the break outside the tackle, and then boom, he's gone. You get that nice sweep going. Whoop. It's hard to catch that man. And even if you do catch that man, he's going to fucking hurdle you backwards. Doesn't matter.
It's just he's going to make a move. He's going to learn. He knows how to make people miss. He is great. Again, he is one of the 2 running backs where it's if they make a move, he can break it for a touchdown at any given point of the game.
Absolutely, man. And that's the thing too. It's like it's going to be so hard for the Rams to, again, much like with, like, say, the Ravens, where it's like, you could try to stop Saquon. You could try, right? You could slow him down a little bit, right? But let's not forget how good Jalen Hurts is. And I think a lot of people kind of have said his name since that Super Bowl less and less as the years have gone on. But man, much like with Jared Goff, we have to give Jalen Hurts a lot of credit for the Eagles' success. And you know me, man. I've been a very big Jalen Hurts fan since he's debuted in the NFL, and he's special.
Kid can ball.
Kid can ball. He can ball really well. He's got great instincts. He is one of the smartest quarterbacks in the league. And man, and obviously he can run it too. So it's like, if it's a read option, man, who do you stop?
You want to know an interesting stat with Jalen Hurts that I heard the other day, and it was actually pretty fucking buck wild, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he's been in the league, going on
4 or 5 years?
Yeah, 5 years, 6 maybe maximum.
Yeah.
At one point in the game when they played Green Bay, he lined up under center, and he dropped back to pass.
Oh, I saw this, yeah.
That was the first time that he had a drop back to pass without a read option or a play action being instilled.
Which is wild to think about.
But at the same time, it makes sense because of the way the game is evolving.
Mm-hmm.
It's evolving from the 5-step drop, the 7-step drop. Now you have quarterbacks that are lining 11 yards in the backfield, doing a quick read, and they're off. You know, that's what the game is evolving into. We're moving away from the 3-step drop. The 3-step drop's irrelevant now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, pistol formation is the 3-step drop.
It's these hybrid quarterbacks, man.
It's the evolution of the game. It's turned into read option and triple option. That's what has been the transition for probably about 15 years. It started in college, and it worked its way into the pros.
It's funny, CP. Look! You look at all these 8 teams that are remaining.
Mm-hmm.
How many of these teams could you really say that their quarterbacks are a pure pocket passing quarterback? I'd say 2.
Yeah, the Rams and Detroit.
Yep, those are the only 2 teams left that have true pocket passing traditional style quarterbacks where they're not looking to run, they're looking to stay in the pocket, stay composed, and make the throw.
Isn't it poetic that the quarterback for the Rams used to be on Detroit?
I know, right? I mean,
isn't that poetic?
It's very poetic.
Then those are the last 2 with pocket passing quarterbacks.
They're the last of a dying breed, mate. I've heard that somewhere. But
right.
But man, I gotta say, man, this Eagles team is better than that team that made the Super Bowl because of the
They're more complete.
They are more complete, and I think again the biggest, aside from Saquon, the biggest addition that I was so impressed with that they picked up Vic Fangio as defensive coordinator. I was so happy, so happy they did that, and it has made a world of a difference.
It's helped turn Cooper DeJean into one of the nastiest secondary in the league.
This Philly defense, it can win a Super Bowl. It could, because it's tied for the number 1 scoring defense. They don't give up a lot of points. They, much like the Chiefs, they have learned how to play control football. And that's scary. That's really scary.
Because of the pace that they do it, too.
Yeah.
Like, the Chiefs are a more slow and methodical way. Philly is in fast forward. They do it. They control the game at such a pace that people just can't keep up. Versus just being drilled for 60 minutes. They're being ran over for 60 minutes.
Yeah. And they're going to run the ball, and they are going to run the ball as one of the best teams in the league. The Eagles and the Ravens are the 2 best running teams in the league. Since Nick Sirianni has been the head coach of the Eagles. He has instilled the identity of this team as we're a running football team. We're going to run the ball. It doesn't matter. And man, Jalen Hurts, he is the perfect fit for this Eagles team.
Oh yeah,
because he is. And I sang his praises before, but man, when it comes to big games, he doesn't blink. When the lights are brightest, he says, "Let's do it." And that's one of the biggest things I admire about him so much. And this matchup between these two teams is just too perfect. It's too perfect, man. Because what one team excels at, the other team does equally as well in the opposite formation, right? So I'm excited for all games this weekend, man. But man, Sunday, you got to circle your calendar for Sunday, man, because we're going to get some really great football. And last thing I'll say, big shout out to Cam Jurgens, the center for the Eagles. He had, again, it's big shoes to fill with Jason Kelce, man. But man, these two teams have not missed a beat. It's funny. Rams lost Aaron Donald. Chiefs lost Jason Kelce. They both retired, right? And yet they're in the divisional round here.
yeah. No, big shout out Cam Jurgens, and you got to remember, Jason Kelce handed him the torch.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So when he hands you the torch, you know that there's something there with you, and you need to prove that, and he has. So I agree. Huge shout out to him.
Oh man, but CP, any final thoughts on this one?
Slugfest. That's about it. This is going to be an very, very fun game.
I ask you right here, right now, my friend, who you got? He's thinking. I know it's so tough.
Hard.
It's as the playoffs go on, it gets harder and harder to decide because it's you could see a lot of these games go either way.
Because again, you got to take the floor with the ceiling of every team, and while taking the capabilities into consideration, you always got to keep the downfall of the other shoe. You got to wonder when it's going to drop.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the Rams have been kind of living on that other shoe this season.
Mm-hmm.
The Eagles, that shoe kind of really hasn't dropped yet this year.
But will it?
I think you're going to have to give me the Rams. I think that shoe drops.
Ooh, taking the Rams.
So I think it's going to be Matt Stafford goes back to Detroit for the NFC Championship.
Yeah. You know, it's funny. I thought you were going to go the opposite way. I thought you were going to pick Philly. And I was like, oh, man, he's surprised.
That other shoe has to drop. You know, like you were saying when it comes to Minnesota, that other shoe has to drop at some point.
The bubble's got to burst at some point. I'm taking the Rams as well.
You know, that other shoe has to drop.
But that's for one team, it doesn't. That's the thing. It does for one team. Out of these 8, the shoe does not have to drop.
Right, the shoe doesn't drop, right.
And I think that I'm taking the Rams because they can compete with anyone. And they have really shown it too. And man, this game is going to be so great, and I'm so excited for this one. I just think that when it comes to big moments, right? Who do I trust more? Sean McVay and Matt Stafford, or Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts? And by that much, I'm trusting Sean McVay and Matt Stafford. Just probably an inch more to win this game.
Want to know what's fucked up?
What?
Philly's given a 72% chance of winning this game.
What does Han Solo say?
Never tell me the odds. But god damn, everyone is counting out the Rams.
I know. And they shouldn't.
Don't sleep on the Rams.
Don't sleep on them. Which, if we are correct, that sets the stage for a Rams-Lions NFC Championship.
That's right.
That's going to be incredible.
In Detroit. Matt Stafford returns
God, I hope we're
to
right.
the Lions den.
God, I hope we're
God,
right.
I hope we're right.
But Chris Palmer, we have one more game to discuss.
The game of games, sir.
We have the game of games ahead of us. We have the Ravens coming to play the Bills. Now, CP, I have a lot to say, but I want to give it to you first before I go in on it. I want to get your thoughts on this spectacle of a matchup. There's a reason they put this as the last game for this week.
Well, like I was saying respectfully about Saquon Barkley, that he is one of two running backs that are one move away from breaking it big every time they touch the ball. Number 2 is in Baltimore. His name is Derrick Henry. The difference maker. You fucking guys have a 6'3", 311-pound fucking fullback running in front of him.
311. I was in disbelief when we saw that.
I heard that shit over the weekend. They said he was sitting at 313, and I was like, excuse me? You guys put a fucking a pulling tackle at fullback for Derrick Henry. We said that his issue was contact at the line of scrimmage. So you put someone who's born to play on the line of scrimmage and you give him a running start.
Good luck with that.
Keep in mind, I just want to use this for reference.
Mm-hmm.
He's 6'3", 311 pounds. Darnell Washington is 6'8", 250 pounds. 260 some odd pounds. He is
6'8".
He is 5 inches shorter, and he's 18 pounds heavier.
But you said Darnell Washington was 250?
260, I think. 260 something.
He's 50 pounds heavier.
He's 50 pounds fucking heavier. At 5 inches shorter.
It doesn't make any fucking sense.
It makes no fucking sense. So yeah, you want to talk about nipping a flaw in the butt? We're gonna give you a locomotive. It is literally the unstoppable force of the league, which is the Baltimore Ravens offense. That's an unstoppable force. But now you look at Buffalo, and they have become the immovable object. Where, like we said in the beginning of the year and throughout the year, the handcuffs are off. Stephon Diggs is gone. You just set Superman free. He has lifted this team to such heights this year. It is remarkable what has happened. So now it's the age-old, the unstoppable force meets the immovable object. How do you stop Superman? And how do you stop the king with a cavalry in front of him? And both questions, simply put, you don't have answers to.
Well, the answers will be given on Sunday at 6:30.
It's like let's take the Steelers, for example, right?
Mm-hmm.
They prepared to try and shut down Derrick Henry.
Mm-hmm.
They forgot a whole second half of that conversation.
What about Lamar?
There you go. I saw it one sequence where we had it right, where we had both players locked up. And you have to do that for 60 minutes. You have to lock up the both of them. And again, it's just having I won't get over having a 300-pound running back. Fullback.
Most teams actually don't have a fullback.
At all. And yet you have a fucking 300-pound one. That's just running down second-level linebackers that are 40 pounds his less. 250, 240 linebackers. He's a 300-pound fullback. He's coming and putting Cam Hayward on his fucking neck. Like, how do you stop that?
It's hard because for most teams this year, you don't. And man, before I get into it, I just want to say this is Let's Talk Football. We have love for fullbacks on here.
There's a lot of love for fullbacks
There's
here.
a lot of love for fullbacks on this show.
That fucking gargantuan motherfucker. What the fuck?
I guarantee you, any other like sports talk show that you're talking to, they probably have never even mentioned Patrick Ricard's name, not even once this season. Promise you. I promise you. We show that love for fullbacks here.
Yeah, but when you look at him, he looks like an offensive lineman. He should not be in the fullback position. It's like he's a unit. It's almost like when you saw Goosecheck come in for the first time from rugby,
mm-hmm.
and he started playing, and he was like, "Oh shit, we have a solid fullback in the league." He makes Goosecheck look small. He's like 40 pounds heavier than Goosecheck.
I know,
if not more.
And I have a lot of love for Juszczyk too, because he was on that Ravens Super Bowl team as well. So,
and he dwarfs him.
Mm-hmm. So, let me get right into it, man. Because
go ahead.
Let me actually just piggyback right off that, where it's like, why the fuck do we have a 300-pound fullback?
Because you fucking can.
Because we can, and John Harbaugh puts the player gets players and puts them in the best positions possible to win the game, to have success in this league, and to play the best football that they possibly can. It's like, you're a 300-pound dude. Let's put you at fullback, and then if we need to, we'll switch you at D tackle, right? Because occasionally he could play D tackle, right? Lamar, before he was drafted, a lot of teams wanted him to be a wide receiver, try out as a wide receiver. John Harbaugh said, no, you're going to be our quarterback. We wanted to trade for Derrick Henry last year, and he was taken aback by that. He's like, oh, they want me? And Harbaugh was like, yeah, because we could win a championship with you. And just look at how lethal this Ravens offense is with Lamar and Derrick Henry in the backfield. And man, I did not want this matchup in the divisional round. I wanted to see this as like either the AFC title game but man, this
right, one or the other, not both. Like Bills, Chiefs, one or the other, not both.
And again, it's the same 4 teams as last year, just reshuffled. And man, this is a heartbreaking reshuffle, because if the Chiefs do beat the Texans, which we both picked the Chiefs to win, right? Only either Lamar or Allen gets to
stop
there.
him.
And and at that point, it's like, man, I wish both of them had a crack at the Chiefs. I really wish both of them had a crack to stop this three-peat from happening. And if the Chiefs do win next week, I'll have a little something, like just kind of like how I want to talk about that prepared a little bit. But let's talk this game. And this game is, the stage is set for an absolute classic between Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. Both of these quarterbacks and both of these teams have reached new heights that I don't think any other team in the league expected from these two teams this year. Both are MVP caliber quarterbacks. Both teams look to be relatively better than they were last year. And only one of them can move on.
You see, that's where I disagree with you when it comes to the Ravens.
Mhm.
This was the expectation this year. This was the expectation this year.
Well,
because
the
of
expectation
last
is
year.
all the way. That's the thing. So
Right.
Mhm.
But this was the expectations
Mhm.
last year.
It was.
And then it was offensive coordinator troubles, running back injuries. You guys remember going into it, there's no excuses anymore this year.
Mhm.
It has to be this year.
Mhm.
You guys are answering that call.
We're answering that call, but I would say we're a better team than we were last year.
By far.
Which is
By far.
Which is crazy to think, because a year ago it's like, could the Ravens be better than they were then? It's like, how could they be better? They're already like the best team in the league, which was like they had the number one defense. Lamar was an MVP caliber quarterback.
You go out and you get a top 5 running back.
And
That's how.
And we became better for it. And
Right.
Derrick Henry has changed life, and man, this team is locked in. Like they want it. And I don't want to like just for this to just be Ravens praise. I also want to praise the Bills for all the work that they have done this year, man. Like they have absolutely. You and I both thought that they would take a step. The Bills would take a step back. No, they took 2 to 3 steps ahead.
They took leaps and bounds
ahead,
forward.
man. Like you said, Superman is unbound now. He's unchained and unbound. And Josh Allen, if he gets, I would not be mad if he gets MVP, because he would deserve it too, just as Lamar deserves it as well.
Rightfully so.
You can make the argument for both, and I would not be mad if it swings either way. I would be mad if this outcome swings against our favor, because of just how great these 2 seasons were for both of these teams, right? It would be much like I've said with the Lions, where it's like it'd be so disappointing for their season to end not in a Super Bowl, because both of these 2 teams, I would say, deserve to be in the Super Bowl more than the Chiefs this year.
Like I said, the Chiefs are the fucking worst 15-win team I have ever seen.
Right. And
a couple of plays don't go their way, they're below 500 and probably don't make the playoffs. And that is a fact.
That is true. That is very, very true. It only takes one play, man. And that's the thing, too, is like for this Bills team, I think I have the same expectations as I have for the Ravens last year, looking back, right? I think the Bills will be better next year. And the biggest flaw on the Bills is that defense, is their passing defense, right? We've seen it in the regular season. Detroit put up 40 on them. And then the following week, the Rams put up 40 on them. And about a week or two later, the Patriots were able to really score on that and really make it a very close game.
37 or something up on them.
It was 24-21 was the final, but the Patriots kind of were able to put up, the Patriots out of all teams, right? Able to put up points on the board. It's like, wow, this Bills team, as great as they are, that's the big difference between these 2 teams. Is the Ravens had these defensive issues early on in the season, and you and I, we came on every week, and I told you, it was like, this defense is fucking atrocious. It's like, if we are to win a Super Bowl, we're not going to do it with this defense. But we fixed it.
Right.
We made the adjustments. We made the changes necessary to put us in the best position to win. And man, both of these offenses can put up 40-something points. Both of these quarterbacks can change the outcome of not only the game, but they can change the outcome of NFL history.
With this game.
But the big difference is that the defense. We were able to fix our defense midseason. I don't think the Bills did that. They had a very impressive defensive outing against the Broncos. I will say, like, that was to only hold the Broncos to 7 points. Man, that's impressive, because the Broncos were scrappy, and a lot of analysts were kind of like, Broncos could upset the Bills, right? But if you think the Broncos could have upset the Bills, you have to give the Ravens their due, man, because this is like you said, an unstoppable force meets an immovable object. And it's so heartbreaking that this is a divisional round matchup. And only one of these two teams gets a crack at Mahomes. But man, I think no matter how you slice it, it sets the stage for next week to be even bigger.
This game's going to come down to the little things.
Oh yeah.
Really, this is going to be one of the most meticulous games of the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And by little things, I mean, yes, you guys made the big changes you needed to on defense. Buffalo, they are freed on offense. They are more sound on offense. It's going to come down to discipline. Penalties.
Yep.
Penalties early.
Mm-hmm.
Baltimore got into a habit early this year and
We're the most penalized team.
Right. Shook it somewhat, but not really.
Mm-hmm.
Throughout the course of the year that they get into penalty trouble early.
Mm-hmm.
Buffalo's problem, they have not as many penalties. It's the yards per penalty that hurt them.
Pass interferences.
The 15-yard penalties or the spot at the foul penalties. You know what I mean? It's not the quantity of penalties. It's where it happens, when it happens, and the severity of the ball movement because of it happening.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to come down to that. When it comes to the elite teams, right, like Baltimore and Buffalo, you could pretty much say that if they get beyond a certain point of the field, they're going to wind up in the red zone.
Mm-hmm.
I would say when it comes to the Ravens, that yardage point is probably around the 40-yard line. Like you guys get in your 40-yard line, you're probably going to have the momentum to get to the red zone. You're going to get more than halfway across the field.
Mm-hmm.
Buffalo is a little bit further back, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I think if they were to start further back to their end zone, they would have a better chance at getting to the other side red zone. More frequently.
I see what you're saying. Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think their range of field effectiveness is earlier than the Ravens.
Mm-hmm.
Just by a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But not much.
Mm-hmm.
And that's strictly because of the pass defense report card for the Ravens.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, they buttoned up everything they needed to. They haven't played Superman.
Well, we have
in the postseason.
We have
this defense.
Not this defense, no, but we have played the Bills in Buffalo in
I'm
the
saying
playoffs.
This defense.
Oh no, not this one.
Has not played Superman.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a very, very fun matchup.
I mean, it's you look at the Bills, right? And I'm just like, of course I'm nervous about it because it's like obviously Josh Allen, right? But you look at the rest of their offense, right? You take Josh Allen out of the equation, right? I mean, which is like it's hard to say, right? But you know,
It's the whole equation.
It's the whole equation. But look at the depth of all the studs they have on offense. They have people forget they have Amari Cooper. They have Curtis Samuel. Keon Coleman looks like a fucking stud.
I like Keon
Coleman. Receiver one.
Dalton
Kincaid. Shakir has become a very favorite target to Josh Allen. And then, by the way, you have a stud running back, James Cook, who I would also put in that tier of stud running backs of Jahmyr Gibbs and Kyron Williams. I put James Cook in that conversation too. And his numbers throughout the year, this last year and this year, I think prove that. Because the Bills are best when they don't have to rely on Josh Allen. When they're able to rely on their other playmakers, that is when they are their most lethal. Last week, when they ran it more than they passed, they were absolutely lethal. And I think that if the game is close, which I think a lot of us think it is, it's going to be a very close game. it's if they're able to run the ball effectively, and the Ravens have the number one defense against the run, but if they're able to challenge that, I think that gives them a really good chance to win this game. If they're just relying on Josh Allen being pass happy, and I think that at a certain point in time, you're going to see Marlon Humphrey make a pick. You're going to see Kyle Hamilton come in. And believe me, Kyle Hamilton is the future of safeties, man. He is an absolute
Blitzing safeties is unbelievable.
not just blitzing, man, but he plays literally every position on the field. He's safety, he's corner, he can play linebacker, he can blitz. He's everywhere on the field. Number 14, keep an eye out for him. He's a future hybrid of defensive player in this league. And man, it's going to be such a tall order for the Ravens defense to stop that Buffalo offense. And it's going to be such a tall order, man. Bills, we played in week 4. We won 35-10.
These are different teams.
I was going to say, both of these two teams were very different from the last week of September, from your birthday to now. It's very different.
Yeah, you cannot compare these two teams from then to now.
So it's so different. And right now, Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen, they are 2-2
against each other.
And this is where rubber meets the road. And
Game 5 against each other.
Yeah, in Buffalo. And it's, again, it's heartbreaking because no matter who wins this game, Ravens or Bills, I'm going to be rooting for them next week.
Right.
That's the thing. It's like
one way or another.
That's the thing. Whoever wins this game, I'm rooting for them next week.
Right. Like, you gotta do it.
So believe me, I have I love the Bills, man. They have been such a fun team and such a fun story and such a excellent team, and it's been so great to see the rise of Buffalo. Because like you said before, when Buffalo's doing well, it's great for the league. And it would be, again, for this season, it would be so disappointing for either of these teams for their season to end here. And but it's gotta happen. It's gotta happen. And I will say this though. The last time the Bills made the AFC title game was 2020. They have not
Has it been 5 years?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Oh my God.
Because after that, they lost to the Chiefs in Arrowhead. The Bengals came into
the divisional. The Bengals came to town.
Bengals came to town and beat them.
Mm-hmm.
Chiefs came into town last year and beat them.
And Baltimore came into town and beat them.
Well, that's to be
no,
determined.
I'm wrong.
Well, I mean, you had a Freudian slip there, mate. But
will they come into?
Was that Chris Palmer from A Week in the Future coming in to tell us?
No, it wasn't.
Oh no!
No, sir.
Oh man. So Chris Palmer, I am obviously taking my Ravens. I don't think there was ever a doubt that I wouldn't take them. But I want to ask you, my friend.
I want you to know I've been thinking about it for the 20 some odd minutes we've been talking about this.
I'm glad because believe me, I'm looking at this game and I could see this game go either way. This game, the odds to win are 50-50. The Vegas odds to win are 50-50.
I was looking at the odds. They're 50-50. They're literally split.
And, man, for the Ravens, if we are to, say, win a Super Bowl, right, it is only fitting that we have to beat the Steelers, who have been torturing us for the last couple years.
Beat Josh Allen.
Allen.
And then beat Patrick Mahomes.
Just to get to the Super Bowl.
Just to get there.
And then whoever's there at probably the Lions, but we'll see.
Probably Dan Campbell, right?
But the path to the Super Bowl is never easy, but the most battle-tested teams tend to win it all. And so obviously I'm going with my Ravens, but Chris Palma, who do you have for this matchup? I'm really curious.
Oh my god, this was so hard. Bring it home for the North, dude. Bring it home for the North.
Let's get it, baby. Let's get it.
You got to bring it home for the North. You got to do it. Josh Allen's been there, and he's fallen short. It's just you got to do it. I believe in Derrick Henry. I believe in that behemoth of a fullback. I believe in that offense.
You believe in Lamar?
Of course, I believe in Lamar.
Good, because
You can't not believe in Lamar.
This team is going to be again.
It lives and dies by his sword,
Yep.
by his sword alone.
And man,
all right, guys.
What a slate
What a
of games.
weekend. What a weekend. There you have it, guys. Divisional round is here. 8 teams, 4 games. Bunch of powerhouses, bunch of underdogs. What will happen? Please leave a like, comment, subscribe. Feel free to check this out before the weekend. And the championship is right around the corner. Best football is yet to come.
We'll see you next week.